YouTube is fun, it's entertaining, but it can also be extremely dangerous and can put you in some legal issues that you never even thought about. And as a content creator, I just wanted to have a little conversation with you guys today, discussing some of the challenges that YouTubers we face on the road, along with some of the consequences when you take your content a little bit too far. How far is too far? Let's talk about some recent cases. In the pursuit of clicks, right? Because we are in a click economy. You make money by getting clicks. You have to generate content that makes people want to watch, makes people want to stick to your channel and come back again and again and again and again. So there's a lot of pressure for us content creators to always push things, sometimes a bit too far. And depending on how dependent you are on the platform, some people, that's how they make their bread and butter. That's how they pay their bills, is by creating content. People do this full time, and it comes with a lot of issues if you're not careful, because it seems like the public often is more interested in either dramatic content, borderline legal, illegal, just, how many girls you can show in, at times, sometimes, compromising situations, pushing things a bit too far. When you travel to a country to shoot content, some people forget that the laws that apply are not the laws from where you come from. It is the laws of the country that you are visiting, the laws of the country that you are filming in. Contrary to what some people think, I don't think YouTubers are journalists. To be a journalist, that's a professional career. People go to school, they learn the way of presenting topics, they learn the proper presentation of things, they know what they can or cannot say, they know what they should or should not say. But as a YouTuber, anybody can basically pick up a camera and start shooting content. So as fun as it is, because it creates like a different universe contrary to what you see on TV. Today, YouTube is competing for attention with the cable news. For some people, this is how they get their information. I know personally, before I travel to a place, I hop on YouTube and I check out what other people have said about that country. That's how I found out a lot of the times places to go, places not to go, what I should or should not do. There's a tremendous amount of public service that is being done by YouTubers. And that's something that I think most of us and most of you guys watching this video do appreciate. But what happens when you push it a bit far? And how far is too far? That's really the question. There has been cases that maybe some of you guys are aware. One of my favorite YouTuber, Kirk House, shout out to Kirk House, who allegedly got banned from the Dominican Republic. I don't know to this day what he did, but I remember he made some posts flying from Brazil to the Dominican Republic, and as soon as he landed, he was informed that he's banned from the country, and they put him on a flight back to Brazil. I really don't know in his content what he did that made the country ban him, but he got banned. There's also the case of Tyler Oliveira, another amazing YouTuber who touches very hot topics. He is really good at presenting topics. He's fearless, and he just opens your eyes about a lot of various things that you may not even know about. Well, recently he made content about people abusing social services in New York, and then he flew to Israel. To his surprise, as soon as he landed, he was also informed that he is basically banned from Israel. They didn't get arrested, they just got banned and deported. I don't know what's worse, but what the issue sometimes is like there's a little bit of confusion, right? Your freedom of speech, it is not equal among countries. There are certain things that are okay to say in some countries and are not okay to say in other countries. So how far can you go when you go to country X, and how much expression can you make? And there's this huge assumption that, well, I have the right to film this, I have the right to say that. Well, not exactly. And actually countries are fighting back right now. As you have more and more content creation, and this is not just YouTube, it could be Instagram, it could be TikTok, it could be Facebook, in all that stuff is content. So this is not just addressing, content creators on YouTube. This is anybody who takes a picture or voices an opinion or makes a video and posts it on any of these social media platforms, Snapchat. You never know where this is going to go who's going to see it, and how those people are going to receive it. First, there's this issue of expectations of privacy. And I know there's a YouTuber who went to France and who was told repeatedly, stop filming me, stop filming me, stop filming me. But he felt like, you know, he's allowed to do that because he's in public. Well, things don't work exactly that way. In France, for example, people have the right to their privacy even in public. And if someone tells you not to film them, you must follow that. And if you don't, and you post the content, they have ways available to them to complain, and YouTube will take that video down. And the video I'm talking about, this YouTuber, he was blowing up like several millions of views within a few days. And eventually the video was taken down. I think he learned that day that, wait a second, the freedom that I have to film in public places in many countries in the world don't necessarily apply to some countries in Europe. This is I guess a warning to anyone who's thinking about content creation or who's shooting content and thinks like, well, you know, I can do this because it works like that in this country. Well, that's not exactly the case. So what prompted me to make this video are recent cases, and I want to kind of discuss it with you guys. The first one is in regards to a French-Algerian lady by the name of Yas Noubel. Yas Noubel is a French-Algerian content creator, very popular on TikTok, and she's known for expressing her views in a very unfiltered way. And she has done it several times when visiting Algeria. She has voiced a lot of criticism. She has made a lot of colorful remarks with absolutely no consequences. So a couple weeks ago, she flew out to Morocco. When she arrived, she decided to make comments regarding some of the things that she says she has observed. She made apologies to Algeria, stating that they're not as bad of drivers as she thought because people drive much worse in Morocco. She didn't stop there. She also went as far as criticizing public institutions, especially the police in Morocco, and stating that they will stop ladies and basically try to take advantage of them financially. She made a lot of comments. Check this out.
Je tiens à m'excuser auprès de mon peuple, le peuple algérien, quand je dis que vous savez pas conduire, etc. J'ai vu pire que vous. Le peuple marocain, c'est une dinguerie, les gars. Je suis à Marrakech. J'ai jamais vu des gens conduire ainsi. Surtout que ici c'est super dangereux parce que en plus des voitures, il y a des mobylettes et sans casque, avec des enfants, ils tournent comme ça d'un coup, ils regardent pas. Je vous jure, j'ai jamais vu ça, même en Asie, j'ai jamais vu ça. C'est une dinguerie. C'est super dangereux. Alors, je dis pas que tout le Maroc est comme ça. Peut-être pas, mais en tout cas à Marrakech c'est comme ça et honnêtement voilà, je tiens à m'excuser auprès de mon peuple encore une fois. Je dis pas qu'en Algérie ils savent conduire, hein, loin de là, mais en tout cas c'est moins pire je trouve que ici. Voilà, donc je suis à Marrakech comme vous pouvez le voir et en plus de ça n'en parlons pas de la police marocaine qui arrête même les filles et qui taxe même les filles pour rien. C'est un truc de fou parce que ça, chez nous, il n'y a pas en fait. Chez nous, t'es une fille, tu vas pas te faire arrêter. Genre, les mecs, on s'en fout en fait. Les mecs, ils payent, on s'en fout. Mais nous, on se fait arrêter parce que on a dépassé la limitation de 5 ou je sais pas. Genre, ils cherchent des trucs pour nous gratter en plus de l'argent, qui nous donnent même pas l'amende. Ils les gardent dans sa poche. Genre, je trouve ça un peu petit. Mais bon, voilà.
So you heard what she said. These are, you know, comments that she made while in Morocco, criticizing the way they drive, comparing it to the way they drive in Algeria, apologizing to Algeria for the comments she has made about them before. And then she jumps onto the police and then attacks the police. Now, guys, you know, let me know how do you feel about this. I'm not here to say whether she's right or wrong, but sometimes even when you have the right to say something, you shouldn't. You know, because the way the law gets applied sometimes can be in a way that you don't expect, you know. So first, you must be aware of the fact that there's tension going on between Algeria and Morocco. Both countries have absolutely no diplomatic relationships. There's no flights leaving Morocco to Algeria and Algeria to Morocco. Basically, the relationship between Algeria and Morocco is similar to the relationship between North and South Korea. Being Algerian and visiting Morocco already, just that alone, you know, it's a big deal. So you would think her knowing that she'll be a little bit more careful in the way she's expressing herself. Another thing is that there are countries out there where you're not allowed to criticize the politicians. They're not allowed to criticize the authorities. You're not allowed to voice certain thoughts that you may have publicly about those countries. And it's not just Morocco. That is the case in China. That is the case in Korea. That is the case in many countries out there, including, I would even say, the United States. You can verbalize all you want, but remember, in the United States nowadays, in order to apply for a visa, you must provide your social media information. They would check on social media, what is it that you are saying about the United States or the president? And if it's something they don't like, and they're not going to tell you what they are looking for, but you can guess. If you are criticizing or you're too comfortable talking trash, guess what? You're not going to be allowed in the country. So there goes your vacation. Or worse, you can be allowed to come in and you get arrested. The young lady, Yas, after making these comments, she actually got on the plane and she was getting ready to fly back to France where she lives. But as soon as she boarded the flight, the police came in. She was arrested. She's already been prosecuted. They gave her 1 year incarceration in Morocco. So it generated a big buzz. A lot of people are talking about it. People are making fun of her. Some people are feeling like, well, she has the right to express her thoughts. She didn't say anything bad. So the public opinion is, let's say, divided as far as, does she have the right to say what she said? Does it rise to a level of being criminal? Who knows? It's important to educate yourself about the country that you're visiting. Something might seem cool, innocent, or just right off the cuff comment. In your country, it may not be a big deal. Well, in the country you're visiting, it very well may be. Is it your business to criticize the country you're visiting? You don't live there. You don't know their realities. You don't know the inner workings of things. It's one thing for a Moroccan citizen to criticize his own government. It's another for a foreigner to come in and start making all of these comments, because people are looking at you like, wait a second, where do you come from? Like, is it better over there? Is it really better? How dare you talking trash? Even if you're a citizen of the country, sometimes it can still lead to some issues, so many times people travel fast, YouTubers, they hop on a plane, they land, learn a little bit about what's going on legally in that country, what is allowed, what is not allowed. And there's a lot of laws that are changing fast because social media is changing the landscape. There are things that is happening in their country. It could be different type of businesses there. It could be anything that could be embarrassing to that country. They know it's going on in their country, but they don't want that to be in the public light. They don't want it to be publicized, to be discussed. They want to keep it private. And every country on earth has something that they don't want to be known publicly. So before, things would just happen, right? You will go to a country, you will at the most maybe take a picture, and that was it. Very limited commentary. But now, because of the rise of social media, everybody feels like, well, you know what? I need to film this. I need to make a video of that. I need to talk about this topic. I need to address this. I need to address that. And it's not necessarily because they care so much. Many times it's because they want clicks. This is a click economy. So the crazier you are, the more outrageous you are, the more shocking you are, then the more clicks, How do you feel about the case of this young lady who is currently serving time in Morocco for the comments that you guys just heard? So the second case I want to talk about is from a fellow from Cameroon by the name of Elise Le Sniper. So this content creator, he's from Cameroon originally, lives in Germany, and he was visiting Ivory Coast. This happened within the last couple of weeks as well. First, you should know that there's tension between Cameroon and Côte d'Ivoire. Both countries are constantly dissing each other, making fun of each other. We consider each other family, right? This is not with any kind of animosity, at least in my regards. There are flights between Ivory Coast and Cameroon. There's a lot of people from Cameroon that live in Côte d'Ivoire and vice versa. So this is more like amicable diss, right? But there is, a little bit of tension, because we constantly make fun of each other. So this fellow, he was visiting Côte d'Ivoire, and he went in one of their most famous bridge. That was when Côte d'Ivoire was playing Germany in the World Cup currently happening. And he was basically waving, the German flag right in the middle of Abidjan, the capital of Côte d'Ivoire. He made comments about voicing his support for Germany, hoping that Germany wins. And of course, this went super viral. Football is something that is taken very, very seriously. So it was creating a buzz. It started gaining more and more attention, and people started tagging the politicians, tagging different authorities in Cote d'Ivoire and say, look at this guy, you guys got to do something about this. This is not the first time that he makes something provocative, makes fun of us. We need to fight back. This is not okay. And they were digging all his old videos where he was actually attacking the president of Cote d'Ivoire and calling him different things that I won't repeat in this video. So all that content came out and it led to his arrest. Again, sometimes people have been doing this kind of reactions for a long time and never had to face any consequences at all because nothing has ever happened. So you feel emboldened, you feel encouraged and motivated to keep going because, hey, you're getting attention, you're getting views, you're getting popular, you're making money. So why stop, right? You keep going, you keep pushing the envelope more and more. So this is what happened. Why visit a country like Cote d'Ivoire and wave the flag of the country that they're trying to beat at the World Cup? Why think that this is okay behavior? Sports is something that people take so seriously, like you can even get assaulted for this. I know in the United States, there's people that have gotten assaulted physically. Look what happened recently at the NBA Finals between New York and San Antonio. We've all seen those images of people getting jumped, attacked for supporting the opposite team. There's no crime doing that. These are not people who were dissing the other team. They just, sometimes just wearing a jersey was sufficient for the mob to jump on you and beat the out of you, you know? And here we have a guy who, for really no reason except being provocative, getting clicks, goes on this bridge and makes these comments. And then here we are. You know, he gets arrested for this. So there's been a lot of things happening with this case. And my understanding is, as we speak right now, he has been released. I'm not quite sure. But this is not a case of someone who freedom of speech has been challenged by the country that he's visiting. This is more like a cautionary tale. We never stop learning. Myself as a content creator, I try to be careful what I say. I try to be filtered and I try not to show everything that I see because I don't think it's my responsibility to go out and show the worst thing about a country. I don't think it's my right to embarrass a country because being a visitor, you are being welcomed in that country. You are a visitor and you want to come back. So why visit a country and then talk trash? You know, there's a very fine line, you know, that I honestly, I don't know where your freedom stops and the country's rights start. But one thing is for sure is that before you go out and you make comments about a country like that, you need to ask yourself, how is it going to be perceived? You know, because at times what seems to be just an innocent comment can be seen completely differently by a country. Given the rise of social media, countries are fighting. You know, you have China recently that has put a new policy in place against content creators addressing certain topics as experts. And I know it's a very complicated policy that they put in place. I don't have all the details, but I know one thing is medical, for example. If you go on YouTube and you start giving medical advice and making comments about medicine and you are not an expert in any way, this is one of the things that China does not want anymore. So if you go out there and you start saying, oh yeah, you know, if you don't want headaches, drink this, whatever, and you know expert, or you start dissing any of the medicinal practices in China, that is something that's going to get you in trouble. There's more. As I move forward, I try to learn as much as I can. But the question really becomes, how far is too far? How far are you willing to go to get those clicks? Of course, part of the blame goes to the content creator. The other blame also has to be the social media platform itself. Because I can tell you guys, as a content creator, you can go out of your way to make good content that is innocent, not provocative, but just normal, fun content that you think people will enjoy. And guess what happens? You get no views. If you just rely on YouTube for money, that's a lot of pressure. How many contents like that can you make? Not generating the money that you want and keep making it. You need more money to stay in a hotel. You need money to travel. Everything you do on the road costs you money. You need to make content that people will click on. And at times there's a lot of pressure to generate things. You know, you can see with titles that, you know, YouTubers use. You know, some people call it clickbaiting, but on YouTube, I can tell you guys, there are certain things that if you don't do either on your thumbnail or on the title, I don't care how good the video is, it's gonna flop. It's gonna completely flop. That's why YouTubers use certain buzzwords. I didn't expect this. I did not know this on my first day. Oh my God, look what happened to me just now. And then you watch the video and you're like, wait, I totally got lied to. You know, YouTubers are doing it to get clicks. And you guys know that, right? So if you just make a normal video, who's gonna watch it? most people aren't going to click on the regular title. So guys, recently I was talking to a friend of mine who made a video with a YouTuber, and after the video came out, she was very upset about the title that he used. It made it look like they went out on a date around Morocco, when in fact they didn't. She was basically a guide to him and showing him the different sites. She was okay being filmed. She thought he was going to post something like, my local guide is showing me the city of, let's say, Casablanca. But he said something about hanging out with a beautiful Moroccan girl in Morocco, something like that. And she was very upset because she's like, why is he saying beautiful girl? The way the video was edited made it look like they were together when they weren't and stuff like that. So I asked her, I said, look, I'm not trying to defend this content creator. I don't even know who he is. But ask yourself, which video would you click on? My tour guide is showing me the city of Casablanca, or hanging out with a beautiful girl in Casablanca. That beautiful girl, it's a buzzword. And that's why sometimes the algorithm picks up on words like that and pushes the video more. That's why he used it. I said, I'm not trying to, again, justify what he's doing, but I want to explain to you the challenge that YouTubers have is like, if you don't write your titles a certain way, if you don't do your thumbnails a certain way, you're not going to get clicks. But there's a limit to how far you can push this, because if you overdo it, you're going to turn off your viewers. And if you go far enough with your content, you're going to get arrested. And those two cases that I have given you guys are not the only ones. You know, there have been very popular YouTubers out there who have made provocation videos. There's a recent guy in the Philippines who was arrested for making these kind of pranks, you know, just constantly harassing people, going around messing with security officers, police officers. There's different cases like this around the world. People going to a train in Japan and just making noise, knowing that they're not supposed to be doing that, just to get attention, to piss people off, and as a result get views. But because this is what the algorithm pushes. It is tough, you know, for some content creators, again, who don't know and have no boundaries, you know, because they feel like, well, this is what works, so I'm gonna keep doing it over and over and over and over again. So personally, guys, I have another channel by the name of IvainTunes. I post and document my travel experiences. I try not to go overboard just because it's not my personality. If you haven't checked out my main channel yet, kindly do so. IvainTunes, the link will also be provided below. You can go and see what I do when I travel around the world. I go to many places, and I always try to document what I see in the most honest but also respectful way. When you visit a country, you have a choice between showing the good or the bad. There's no perfect country, and there's no country that is so bad that it only has a bad side. Besides getting arrested, YouTubers also impact tourism. Some people just watch a video, and on that, they make a decision about whether or not they're going to go visit that country. It's a lot of responsibility. We are not given a manual about how things are supposed to be. This is what's okay and what's not okay. YouTube has very loose guidelines. As long as you don't break some of the rules that they have highlighted, you are basically okay. But countries go beyond that, and at times do not want certain things to be pushed out there. And also, guys, not everything is supposed to be for public consumption. It's okay to go and enjoy your country without necessarily filming every single thing you see, especially if it's private, or if it's something that is hidden, or it's something that the country doesn't necessarily want to be out there. It's like visiting your friend who's hosting you, and before you leave, you make the bed. You want to be able to come to a country, visit, enjoy it, and leave it exactly the way you found it. Because quite frankly, how much change do you think you're going to have with your little video? You're more likely to just make it harder for the next person, get the next person attacked, assaulted, or make yourself get arrested. That's the responsibility that YouTubers have that at times I feel like don't necessarily pay attention to until the consequences are out there. In Brazil today, in order to get a woman to film with you, it's so hard because of what a lot of other YouTubers have done, where the woman felt like, oh, I didn't know I was being filmed at this particular moment, or you were supposed to cut this part. So a lot of women in Brazil are ultra sensitive about YouTubers these days, and it takes a tremendous amount of convincing to even just get an interview. And these are the trends that are going to continue to spread around the world as people are becoming more aware of YouTubers and more aware of what they potentially can do and the power of the camera. Things are not going to get easier. They're going to get harder. More people are filming content. More and more people are jumping on YouTube and competing for these views. So who's going to win is who's going to be the most outrageous or the more crazy. I hope things get to tone down a little bit. I don't want personally to see the plays that I like get ruined because people feel like, you know, they can just film anything and everything. It comes to a detriment. I think you can make good content and not necessarily be as provocative. So for that, we need to tone things down a little bit. So I'm asking you guys who are watching me and who are content creators, let's tone it down a little bit and let's be respectful of the countries that we visit, because at the end of the day, you don't want to get banned, you don't want to get arrested. What we are providing is either educative or entertaining, and it should not get to a point where someone gets arrested or banned from a country. Let me know, guys, what do you think about this? In the cases that I have mentioned, do you believe that the countries did the right thing, or do you think that's a bit too far to arrest someone for their freedom of speech? Or is it perfectly okay, you know, and YouTubers should not be allowed to criticize a country? How far is too far? Can't wait to hear you guys' comments below. So if you enjoyed this video, kindly give this video a like. There's more content that I have shot right here. Check it out, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like and share the video, guys, and I will see you on the next one.
Forget school, forget that lie. Everybody lost, but I'm trying to survive. Camera in my hand, I'm chasing the light. Travel around the world, I do it all night. Every day I bleed, but I live for the stream. One day you gon' see me trending on your TV. I seen creators overdose on the grind.